Hi, welcome to this new episode of the Power series. Thank you all for joining us. Today, Positive Luxury CEO Diana Verde Nieto will be in conversation with the mindfulness expert, Terrence the Teacher, osteopath Boniface Verney-Carron, founder of Irene Forte Skincare and wellness director of Rocco Forte Hotels, Irene Forte. And they will be discussing what we can do to take care of ourselves in stressful and challenging times. So we'll have 15 minutes at the end to answer all your questions, but you can submit them anytime during the webinar. Over to you, Diana.
Thank you, Claudia, and good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for taking time to be with us and to be with the audience today. It's a real pleasure to see you, even, at the distance. Wellness is one of those things like sustainability that is being overused quite a lot. And everybody has their own definition of wellness and their own interpretation of wellness. For me, it's about becoming aware of the choices you make, is becoming aware about your health, about the fulfillment of your life, and it's about to kind of look after yourself from the inside out and outside in. And for me, it's an incredible honor because this is an area in which I am not an expert in any way, shape, or form, and I'm really looking forward to ask you questions and to learn from you today. So I'd like to start with you, Boniface, because I think into this definition of wellness, what is wellness? What is health and well-being, and how lockdown has impacted and perhaps even changed the physiology of us all?
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm very excited about this webinar. I would like to take a chance here to start with a definition that is sometimes forgotten, and it is the definition of health by the World Health Organization, and it goes this way. Being healthy is being in a complete state of physical, mental, and social well-being. It's not the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, if you think about this, it's quite relevant to the time we're living now because this confinement is affecting all three areas we've just mentioned. Physically, things have changed. Emotionally, mentally, things have changed a lot. And obviously, socially, things have changed grandly. Now, I will take a little time here to say also that it's about resilience. We talk about a lot how to stay healthy. How do we manage to keep our health, to protect it and preserve it? And you've heard this word a lot recently. It's about resilience. And I think we can touch a bit about this today as well. So I will take the chance because I'm starting now to take the branch of the body and I will leave the mental and social aspect to my friends, Terrence and Irene. The 3 points I'd like to make that I think has affected us a lot in this time of confinement, in terms of the physicality of things, is first and foremost, there is the lack of movement, sedentarity, which we've been suffering for the last 50 years, really, because we're sitting at our computers, our life has become really changeable from being outdoors and doing some work outside to get our food. Now, it's even worse at this particular moment. And what does it mean? Sedentarity, in terms of physiology, means that you're not moving as much. Now, if you think about what life is as we know it, it's defined by motion. It's defined by movement. Everything in you is in motion. Your heart is beating, you have a circulation of arterial flow, venous drainage, lymphatic drainage. Now think about what happened when this is totally slowed down and impaired a little bit. The arterial flow is okay, but the venous drainage and lymphatic drainage will be impaired. And this leads to congestion. This is an important word, congestion. The fluids are not moving so well. And we'll start having a few dysfunctions coming along. And that trickles down into most of our organs and most of our function. So if I jump a few hoops here, I will say that people that have been quite static at home could see sign of constipation, for example, because their digestion is 40% due to mobility. If that's not there, it's going to slack. But also the drainage of our lymphatic system is what engines the whole of the immunity. So your immune system is also totally linked to your capacity to move. So that would be my first point, how lack of movement is affecting general system of the body. The second point I want to make, and I will be quite brief over these ones, and I know Terrence will also complement this, is how physiologically things change when we are under low-grade stress. And that's what we are facing here. We are not in a peak of stress. Some people are, and I'm sending my thoughts to them. But for us who are just confined, what we're experiencing is this uncertainty is acting on us as a low-grade chronic stress. And that means that your adrenals will secrete a tiny bit more adrenaline. You've heard of this hormone, I'm sure. Your cortisol level go up a little bit. And that will change your whole physiology. Your heart rate's going to go up, your heart rate, your blood pressure is going to go up, your glycemia is going to go up, your sugar levels, and all of this will change your metabolism activity, probably giving a bit more of an acidic impact into your physiology. And if you know what that brings you to is you being more prone to inflammation. More prone to inflammation means more prone to pain. So if you think about this, the difficulty to feed well as well in this confinement, because cooking 3 good meals a day is difficult, the lack of movement, and the congestion we mentioned, it's not the best combo really. Your body's getting a bit in stasis, and that's not what you want. It's not breathing and bouncing with resilience the way you want. The last point I will make, and I will be brief, is about, because I'm asked this a lot, it's about posture. And I would like to shed a bit of light and clarity about posture, because people think posture is a physical thing, but it's absolutely not. Posture is your body language. It's how you communicate with your environment. And as you know, as we communicate, 60% of how we communicate with each other is through my body language, my posture, my facial expression. So when we're confined with people we see all the time, we don't make that much of an effort. So we don't use that anymore so much. We just kind of slouch. We look at our screen, we look at our computer. We're not interacting so much because these people we see all the time, we're losing a bit of that, again, way of confidence in our posture and the way we're going to look at people and gaze at people. So I think posturing that way has to be remembered to help you with the circulation and with dealing with the little changes of physiology due to stress. And to finish with, very simply, because people ask a lot, imagine if I sit this way and I start slouching, you can see that I'm going to get tension in the back of my neck. That could lead to tension headaches, could trigger migraine you didn't have for a while, low back pain. Again, that will feed into this whole congestive stasis state. I'm finished, I think. I've spoken enough.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. And I actually just sat down properly, like my back, my posture. I am totally guilty of all of those things. So thank you so much. I think that was very, very helpful, because I think we all suffer. Well, I certainly definitely suffer from that. Irene, you come from a slightly different perspective. You have created a fantastic range of skincare, and you're also the director of wellness for Rocco hotels. But self-care and feeling good inside and out is really, really important. And I think I want to make this emphasis of the inside and out. So how can we start a self-care routine, and what does it consist of?
So I think when thinking about self-care, firstly, hello everyone, and it's great to be here on this webinar. It's quite strange because we're speaking to the 4 of us, but I know there's other people there. But I guess during these unprecedented times, I think self-care is extremely important. And when talking about self-care, what does self-care mean? I think it means taking an active role in protecting our own kind of well-being and wellness. As Boniface said, he has a kind of triangular, I guess, presentation of wellness. I would look at it, I sometimes look at it as being spiritually aligned, mentally focused, emotionally connected, and physically energized. So I have kind of 4 pillars, but they're very similar. A few of them are very similar. And I think when starting a self-care routine, it's really important to think about all 4 pillars. So when someone asks me, are your products going to revolutionize my skin? As a marketeer, I should say yes. But in reality, no one product is going to revolutionize your skin. It's a combination of all aspects of wellness and well-being in order to have good skin. So that involves sleep. I think sleep is the most important pillar, and I know a lot of people probably at home have been struggling with sleep because they're stressed, or because they have babies, family, everyone under one roof, no help possibly as well. But I think kind of 8 hours of sleep is kind of the key to good skin. There's a great book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which if anyone wants to do a little bit more reading on sleep, I would recommend it. I guess the second pillar is definitely diet. So water intake and trying to stay away from those kind of faddy, unsustainable eating habits, and having kind of a balanced diet with low processed and refined foods, and foods that aren't rich in saturated or trans fats, and kind of focusing on whole grains, good fats, vegetables, etc. Again, difficult at home, difficult when you're stuck in your house. I'm one of those horrible people that snacks all day long. So, but it's trying to kind of maintain that balance. And then movement, as Boniface talked about, is also incredibly important for the skin, because obviously it assists internal blood, nutrient and oxygen flow. And also it stops you from snacking or starting to crave sugary things, as does sleep. And then going on to skin and how to look after your skin with that too. I mean, all the points I mentioned look after your skin, but I would say have a regular AM, PM routine, but be ready to adapt that to your skin's needs at the time. For instance, if you've got very greasy skin or breakouts, then don't start putting kind of very rich products on there. So adapt your skincare routine. I like to talk a lot about face mapping. So using different products on different areas of your face, because we often don't have the same skin problems on all areas of the face. And I think at the moment there's been a lot of good kind of online lives and demos and things. So I would say having a regular AM, PM routine, but then also doing at least one good kind of face ritual a week, which can include a mask and a scrub, and then maybe doing kind of a face massage routine. There's a lot of live videos. I've been doing them weekly with someone called Pietro Simone, who's a real skin wizard, I like to say, because I'm not a therapist, so don't have the hands, sadly. And other rituals like a bath, a weekly bath with body brushing, or things that really can kind of help your skin and you relax, I would say.
Thank you, Irene. And your skin looks amazing. So definitely we should be listening to this. And Terrence, I'd like to kind of go to you because, I read somewhere that we will be having some kind of PTSD when we get back to normal, and how we look after our mind is the biggie here as well. I don't know whether kind of you can give us tips, you can help us, because like Irene said, a lot of people are suffering from lack of sleep, and also kind of like also Boniface said, it's like anxiety and all these kind of stress. So we are in this bubble at the moment. So how can you help us with the mind?
We have to understand that every thought that you have affects your emotions and then affects you physiologically. As the first two speakers, Irene and Boniface, said, is that these things all work together. Now, our mind is very interesting. For every 5 to 7 conscious thoughts that you have, is about 11 million subconscious thoughts that go off on their own. So you might think about one thing like, I can't go out today. And then subconsciously, your brain will go to what that really means without even knowing. I can't, loss of control, uncertainty, fear. Why can't I go out? It's because there's an illness. And before you know it, all those thoughts go off. And then you have to make an emotional connection to that thought, which was one little thought. And that emotional connection is going to be, this doesn't feel good. Now you've got a thought and an emotion, and it's not great. You're going to get a physical response, which is anxiety, maybe shaking, not feeling great. So by knowing that, what we have to do is, you've got to understand, you can actually have a relationship with your thoughts. You can intercept, you can interrupt, and you can actually become friends with that. So in mindfulness meditation, we teach people that your thoughts don't rule you, that you actually play an active part in this process. And what you then find is, if you actually can be with your thoughts, then you don't go down that road of anxiety levels that go through the roof, panic attacks, whatever it is, wherever people go. You can actually interrupt just before those stress hormones get too high by just resetting yourself, because you're interrupting that process. So I am, let's say for instance, I'm scared. Breathing in, breathing out. But I'm scared. Breathing in, breathing out. And as I interrupted, all those other millions of thoughts that have gone off don't get the opportunity to do their thing. So I don't get that emotional connection, and then I don't get the physical response. And in the end, if you keep on resetting yourself like that, you will find that you get to the end of your day in a much better way. Doesn't mean it changes your reality, but your perspective of the reality will be different. And mindfulness has proven on MRI scanning through science, it changes the way your brain works. If you meditate regularly, even if it's for small amounts of time, your cerebral cortex, there's more activity. So you can be more creative, you can plan better. Your amygdala, which is your fright and flight center, it actually thins out and slows down. Less fear, less anxiety. Insula, which has got to do with how we relate to people around us, energized. They find with people, for instance, that are depressed, there's a reduction in energy or lighting up in the insula. When you start meditating, they find it light up. And the reason for this is when you meditate or do breathing or do mindfulness, you find that all parts of the brain get a say in what you do. Otherwise, what will happen is if the amygdala is the one that's overfiring, you will be in fright and flight the whole time. But by slowing down your brain waves, the prefrontal cortex, the hypothalamus, hippocampus, insula all have a say in your meeting, and then you can make the right decisions for you. Now, just to give you an indication of this interruption, just to show you how quickly it can make you feel better, I thought I would take you guys just through a little breathing meditation or exercise, just to show you how quickly it will just change how you feel. So wherever you guys are, or everyone that's watching, please, if you just want to sit comfortable, you can keep your eyes open if you want, but if you can, please close them so that we've got no outside stimulation. And then just listen to my voice and follow my instruction. So the first thing that I want you to do for me is just to notice your breathing. Just notice yourself breathing in, breathing out. So basically, we are checking in on our breath. Now, as you check in on your breath, I want you to ask yourself and just answer to yourself in your mind, is my breath fast or slow? Just notice what the answer is. Don't need to change your breathing. And then the next question, is my breath deep or shallow? And then another interesting question, where in your body do you notice yourself breathing? Is it in your stomach? Maybe the chest? Maybe your mouth? Maybe the nostrils? Just be inquisitive and notice where you notice yourself breathing. And then just let go of that and just notice yourself breathing in And breathing out, breathing in, and breathing out. And then at your own time, at your own pace, you can slowly open your eyes.
Wow.
And that's so simple. You've reset yourself, brought some of those hormone levels down, the negative ones, slowing down your brain waves, maybe from beta to alpha, just by checking in on your breathing. And this way you reset yourself and you set yourself up for a better day. And for now, I'm just going to leave it there, Diana.
That was amazing. Thank you so, so much. You definitely have reset my day. And I'm sure people at home will be thanking you as well. So please, everybody, put your Q&As on your screen for everybody. So, I mean, Boniface, I'd like to go back to you in terms of what tips would you give people now, like, you know, when you're in lockdown and when you're coming out of lockdown, of how to prepare your body and your mind to this transition, which will be probably as stressful?
I think, thank you, Terrence, first of all, that was very nice. I think it's you'll see, and I guess the governments are making it this way. It's going to be a process. We're not going to be out like this. And in a way, I think this is good for us, for our well-being. There's going to be quite a few surprises into how we're going to interact as we come out. And if I come back in this idea of health being a third social, what's going to happen when we walk out again and we're left with a mask covering our faces? And if you remember what we said about communication and body language being your posture, non-verbal communication, but your facial expression. So suddenly we're going to be like this, and all we're going to have to interact with each other is our posture dynamically and our gaze. And I think this is going to be a new setup that we're going to have to, we could start thinking about this now. Thinking about having a confident posture that helps lots of things physiologically, but also will help me in my communication. But I don't want to be over empowering in people's face. I want to be also welcoming of this new setup that we're going to have to face. And also work on my gaze. We'll have to look again. I think we've been a bit numb sensoriality because of all this technology that is around us. And we're a bit fast, we're always running around. I think we're going to have more of those interactions from afar, where we're going to have to connect with people. And I think this is going to be an important side of this new, I guess, shift as we come out of this confinement. Now, pure physically, of course, exercise, we all agree on this. Exercise helps circulation, it helps with the release of endorphin, coming back into a bit of biochemistry. But what's important as well, and Irene touched it very well, it's our nutrition. And we all know this as well. But I've been living here very luckily for nearly 6 weeks on an organic regenerative farm. And all we have eaten here is food from this farm and drunk water from the source. And I'm just sharing with you this experience because it is quite incredible. Although we're trying to source our food well in London, we really try to, it's difficult and it has lots of things in the way of it. When you immerse yourself with nature and you get the energy from the hands in the soil, and you suddenly, a bit like what Terrence just did with us, there's a feeling of harmony between the different systems that happen. So I want to encourage people back in their confinement to try and source local food and farm food. I know it's possible now. We have farm drop, we have things that allow us, and I think it's not to be undermined for your skin, for your inner soul health, but for your body health as well. And just to finish and wrap it up on my side, I think it's going to be important to, everyone has now been online in personal trainers, Pilates teachers, life coach, mindfulness coaches. I think we have to use this incredible technology for this. I'm not a great technology user, but it's been amazing that we have had access to webinars like so, or people like Terrence and Irene giving you advice that you know, it's difficult on a daily basis. You don't have the time and you don't have, they are very busy as well. Suddenly everyone's available. And I think we have to seek, because there's a lot there that can help us for that transition.
Thank you so much. Terrence, what would be your tips and advice?
So I've got 3 top tips that I give recently. And it's because of what we've realized over the period of time, is that one of the biggest things that people are struggling with is uncertainty and loss of control. And this loss of control creates fear, anxiety, panic, and a lot of emotions, even sadness, that people aren't used to. And one thing I've learned is that if you can actually just manage to take a little bit of control back in your day-to-day living, the subconscious mind processes will feel that. And the minute they feel that you're back in control, they will stop, obviously, producing all those cortisol levels and anxiety levels. So when you wake up in the morning, because every day is a new day, take control. Make a choice of how am I starting my day. Stay away from social media, the news. Start with something that nurtures you, that sets you up for a perfect day. Your cortisol levels are already high because it's to get you up. You don't need more stimulation. So find something. Do your skin range or whatever you want to do. You know, put on your makeup, but anything that you know that nurtures you. Food, go towards a meal, nice cup of tea. Start your day by taking control. And that will also then pull through to the rest of your emotions, because you will feel, hey, I made this choice. And you can do it right through your day. The second one is reset yourself continuously. Because as your day goes on, a lot of things can happen. And Boniface was telling us that they've got a little baby at the moment, so the child can, you know, be full of life and maybe just pull you out of your, you know, calm state of that. Go for a walk, reset yourself, take a breath in, breath out, give yourself a minute or 2, have a nice meal, go and do a run, go and exercise again. But just reset, bring all those hormone levels to balance again. Because if you balance, you will be better. And then the last thing is at nights, switch off. We need to sleep better. Irene was talking about, you know, sleep is so important. Switch off, because our melatonin levels go up as the sun goes down. Serotonin levels obviously decreases. But if you're looking at blue light, or you're watching a horror movie, or you're watching the news just before bedtime, how can you expect to fall asleep? Switch off, get rid of those electronic devices. Have a routine where you, every time when you brush your teeth, slow it down. I am now preparing myself for bed. When you pack away your clothes, pack away your worries. I'm switching off. Dim the lights an hour before bedtime. And you're just helping all the process in your body, but you're helping yourself also subconsciously, that the body goes, they are getting ready for bed. And you'll find you'll have a much better night's sleep. So those will be my 3 top tips.
Thank you so much. And Irene, you've got the last word.
There we go. I would say that forget what you haven't achieved yet during lockdown, and don't beat yourself up of the things that you wanted to do and haven't managed to do yet. I think there's still quite a few weeks to go, and there's definitely time to kind of prepare for coming out again, kind of to reset and reassess. And I would say, you know, time is moving slower than usual. You know, we always complain about not having enough time to do X, Y, and Z. Well, today you have more time than ever to think of the spiritual, mental, physical, and emotional, and therefore to kind of put you in a better stead to come out into the outside world. And I think when you come out into the outside world, something to think about is really empathy. You don't really know about other people's experiences or how difficult it's been for them financially, or, you know, some people might have been completely alone over this period, so not with a partner, family. And so I think it's about trying to be empathetic and trying to be aware of the different people that you'll come across and meet, and still trying to be supportive, even if it's through a mask and through the eyes, as Boniface was saying. And yeah, I think it's also about going out and not doing things necessarily in the same way that we were doing them before. So really to kind of reassess, as I was saying, and reset and think about how you want to lead your life and how you want to approach travel and how you want to approach your business or various other things. I think time is such something that we always say we never have, so to take kind of advantage of it, I would say.
Thank you so much, Irene. And yes, I mean, I think time is an incredible gift that I never thought I would value it so much, actually. So thank you so much, everybody, for such an insightful and actually mindful conversation. And I'd like to start going through some of the questions that we have been asked. So Boniface, this is for you. This is so useful. Thank you. Thank you. How do we reduce our cortisol levels? Are there any supplements that we can take, or is just about reducing the low-grade stress?
Good question. Well, I think Terrence, well, all three, we just mentioned this, it's a combined effect that will modulate the hormones, but the hormones are very strongly connected to our nervous system. And if I don't want to become too complicated, but very simply, we have two main systems of communication in our body. And one is the nervous system and one is the hormonal system. And it goes through different pathways, one through the circulation, one through the nerves. But it is intertwined and interconnected. So since the mind, conscious and unconscious, is what will control all of it, I will talk about one thing that is interesting to understand is what we call the autonomic nervous system. And this is what connects the unconscious mind to the body. So Terrence was speaking about just a few minutes ago. Now there are two types of autonomic nervous system. And what I liken to what Terrence just said, so I keep saying this, but it's the taking of control, because you can't go right into your unconscious mind. But what you can do is using breathing. And why is breathing so efficient? It's because breathing is one of the only systems in the body plugged on both. So I can control my breathing right now. I'm in control. But if I stop thinking of it and I go on with my day, I still breathe. At night, I still breathe. So the autonomic nervous system takes over. But I can take over as well. And that's one of the only things in the body that we can do. So when I use my breathing system, I kind of make my way through the nervous system into this autonomic nervous system that will control and connect with my hormones. So now if I have an increase of the low-grade stress hormones we were talking about before, I can modulate it. And I think the important word here is modulation. You can't say you can take control of your hormones. It's just not as, and it takes time to get to these spaces as well. I mean, I'm sure people have tried meditation. It's not something you just sit down and say, oh, that's it, I'm doing it. It's just not like that. It takes time, like you have to learn like anything else. And I think, so sorry, this is a long answer to this question, but this is how to do it. It's just to realize that you have, and control is not always a word I love because I don't believe in control, but you have a sense of empowerment physically and mentally that allow you to modulate your physiology. And breathing is one of the entrance door towards it. And once you're there, you can achieve a lot. But exercises, routine of face and self-well-being is another. Being happy is another way of modulating your hormones. So you have to know who you are. This is who you are. How do you function? And find a harmony for this, and then your hormone will follow.
Amazing, thank you so much. This is a question for Terrence from Edith. I find that the data that you gave very interesting. What was the proportion for every 5 thoughts, 7 million unconscious thoughts?
So it's 5 to 7 thoughts that you can have consciously, and then you have about 11 million bits that are firing in the subconscious. Because if you think about, when I say 11 bits, we're also talking about the bits that is making sure that the heart is working, that the lungs is breathing. So, you know, all that autonomic nervous system stuff that's happening. But we only have about 5 or 7 that we're consciously aware of. But there's so much going on in the subconscious part of the body and the mind. Yeah, so that's about 11 million. 5 to 7 thoughts conscious, almost 11 million things happening subconscious.
Thank you so much. And this is one for whoever wants to take it. What can we do if get inflammation in our fingers and reduce water retention?
I'm happy to take it, but well, first here, in those questions, it's important to say, and I'm saying this because people are watching this, you need a diagnosis before you give a treatment or an idea of treatment. So painful fingers, inflammation in fingers can have obviously quite a few different origins, but water retention is the same. So I will say that there are two different things happening, but inflammation in fingers, if you rule out infection and if you rule out congenital and genetic diseases, you have to think about, first and foremost, is it a repetitive strain injury? Are you doing something that is triggering those fingers to tell you I'm doing too much? But most of the time you'll find that the fingers, as you can imagine, are at the end of your whole upper limb. So if you are doing something minute with your fingers, typing is one of them, if your posture is bad, it comes all the way up from usually your posture, neck, shoulder, and it trickles down. And eventually the symptoms come to be here, but they're not necessarily coming from here. So I think the answer here is to try and find a way to find the origin of those inflamed fingers, if it's not arthritis, of course. And water retention, I'm sorry, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
What will impact more, in your opinion, the future state of well-being, physical, mental, or spiritual? And this is for whoever wants to take it as well.
I mean, I'm happy to take it. I think one doesn't give more impact than the other. I think the whole point is that they're all really deeply intertwined and they all lead to one another in one way. So really, to achieve holistic health, it's a combination of everything, of all three that I mentioned there, I would say.
And if I can jump quickly, if you don't mind, just to add to what Irene says, I almost see it like a triangle. And on the bottom line, you've got the body, mind, and they lead up to the spirit. But you can't have the triangle without all three. And if you have a solid body, mind, then the spirit can be built on top of it, or the spiritual. So they are as important as each other, as Irene said.
That is incredibly insightful. Thank you so much. And I think we have one more question. I seem to have an inflamed scalp right in the crown area of my head. I often show physical symptoms from stress. How do I remedy this? Whoever would like to take that. Breathe.
So there's a difference. The scalp is quite wide. If it's from here, a lot of the time it's called Arnold's neuralgia. It's a little irritation of a nerve between C2-3 going around. It's called the greater occipital nerve. And that's what gives a very irritated scalp. It's quite a common condition. I'm not saying this is a diagnosis here. Of course, we would need to investigate it. But I'm going to come back because I think we're all together closing this nicely, is that think about breathing again, since we did this practice. And the nerves to your diaphragm comes from C345, the phrenic nerve. So tension in the neck could be linked to an issue with your breathing, and vice versa. As you're going to release and breathe better, you will release tension in your neck as well. And that could have, in this instance, also an impact in the tension further up in the neck and release some of that. So there is mobilization and movement, we mentioned. Stretching is one thing, circulation, and connecting with this physiological motion. Breathing is one of them. And it has a huge correlation with the nerves to the tension of the body and the mind.
Thank you very much. There is a question probably for Terrence, I mean, although it could be for anyone. Are there any meditation apps or experts we should turn to as novice in meditation? Well, Terrence is going to be doing some meditation with Positive Luxury, and we will let you guys know when. But apart from Terrence the Teacher, what other meditation apps can you recommend?
Terrence should talk about his apps first, I think. Let him do that.
Thanks. Thank you, Irene. I wasn't going to, but seeing that Irene has said, I do have a little app that I've brought out, which runs on Facebook Messenger, and it's Breathe with Terrence. So it's at Breathe with Terrence on Facebook Messenger. And basically I teach you the basic steps from checking in on your breath. And I start with like a 1-minute meditation, and then I build it up. But it's sort of a learning tool. You learn how to meditate. I talk to you. It's almost like a chatbot. I think it's actually one of the first mindfulness meditation chatbots out there, but I've never promoted it. I actually did it just as a gift to whoever finds it and wants to do it and really want to learn. But what's very important for me, but again, thanks Irene, but we are all very different. And there's different strokes for different folks. And I really think that there's so much out there these days. And you've got it, because culturally, even, your religion, wherever your background is, you've got Buddhism, you've got Vedic meditation, you've got sound meditation, you've got breath meditation. There's all these things out there. And I think you've really got to just do a little bit of research and find what works for you, and then start from there. Because if you start with what you like, you will most probably continue the habit. But as a professional, the thing that I've noticed, to do breathing meditations and to connect with breath, and because of the quick results you see, if I would advise someone, I would say start with breath meditations.
Thank you very much. And I guess the last questions actually for the three of you, and we can keep that brief so we can keep to time. What enlightenment and adjustments you have made during this time, if you can share?
Shall I go? I have the luxury of not having kids at the moment. So I've had a lot more time on my hands than I usually would have, because I usually travel every week for work. So I guess I've had all the time to read all the books that I wanted to read, and also the documentaries that I wanted to watch. So I've kind of had the luxury of being able to enrich myself culturally, in a way that I wouldn't usually have unless I was on holiday.
Thank you.
I will leave the last word to Terrence, and I will say that it has been, we've been very lucky because we moved quite early to the country, and that was my wife's dream really. She wants to be a farmer, and she wanted us to all live on a farm and take part, which we did in an amazing place. So that was an amazing, and we're still there, a beautiful time. And I've learned a lot because I didn't know very much about it in the first place. So that was a huge learning curve for me. We have 2 kids, an 11-year-old who's really easy and is enjoying the farm more than ever, and a little girl who's a bit tricky sometimes. And that has been interesting for us as well, because it has challenges as a couple, because we don't have childcare, which we are very fortunate to have when we're back home. And we had time, but we had also a lot of time, just all the 4 of us, with all the amazing things that comes out of it, but the challenging times as well. And we reflect, and Irene said it, and Terrence said it as well, you have to be in the now and to make the best of this moment and not start thinking here and there, because we are so lucky, and I am very grateful to be here. So I realized that being more in the now it's what it is all about.
Thank you so much. Last word to you, Terrence.
So 2 things. I've learned how to use my laptop because I'm not a person for these type of things. And now I can reach more people, which is amazing, and more people can reach me. But the biggest gift, and it's a gift, and I'm sorry, but for me, I've been given the opportunity to take everything that I teach, to implement them, and to see the power of looking after my body, mind, and spirit, and how it helps me to get through this time. And that was a gift that this time gave me.
Thank you so much again, Terrence, Irene, and Boniface, for, well, this 45 minutes gift to us all. And actually, the one who has the last word is Claudia. Over to you. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Terrence. Thank you so much, Boniface and Irene. It has been a great conversation. Next week on Thursday, we'll be discussing the power of good leadership with Paul Pullman and Valerie Keller of Imagine. So please reserve your spot now, register to our newsletter to receive your invitation. Again, thank you all for joining. Stay safe, and we will see you next week.